coming from the Dutch, who have been really at the centre of facilitating and promoting advantageous tax policies for big international business corporations, it's really no surprise to see that they're taking their own steps to try and enhance their reputation, protect their reputation, and also move with the global agenda. So I don't really see this, Tim, as an attack on the Isle of Man as such. I see this as the Dutch trying to put their own house in order under substantial pressure, and one only needs to go back a matter of months to see how much pressure they're under from a number of international countries with the in terms of attacking and looking at with close scrutiny their own taxation.
Well, Shell was
measures.
one example that's come up of recent times where the shared dividend arrangements are being questioned in their parliaments.
Well, Shell, Starbucks, Nike, but just to name three of the global businesses who at one time or another have had their tax affairs looked at very, very closely in terms of what they've been doing in the Netherlands. But look, I mean, in terms of the Isle of Man's position, we've been on this agenda and been with this agenda for a number of years. But 2016, we committed fully to the OECD in terms of combating base erosion profit shifting, which is what the Dutch are actually targeting with this measure. And of course, last month, Tynwald unanimously supported the new substance regulations, which will mean that companies on the Isle of Man will have to clearly demonstrate that the money and the profits that they're generating have been done so with substance on the Isle of Man. So these sort of steps and these measures, I think, demonstrate how far advanced we are, and we should be. I think we should be proud of the steps we are taking.
But isn't it frustrating, though, that we get these comments, we get put on a blacklist, they come from countries that need to put their own house in order. We get told off by the UK, they haven't put London in order. We've now got Holland, who've got the Dutch, Netherlands, Antilles, for example, not on the list, and yet they single us out amongst others all the time.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. I mean, they've drawn up their list. They've put a number of offshore centres with low or no tax on that list, and I think
not the Netherlands Antilles.
Well, not the Netherlands Antilles, but look, you know, the EU, the latest EU directive, they've just gone out to all member states. It effectively instructs them to take action to work harder at anti-avoidance measures and to ensure that this profit shifting, if you like, is stamped out, and that they are taking relevant steps to ensure, as part of the global agenda, that they are effectively doing so and stopping this movement of profits and shifting of profits around the globe to avoid corporate tax. Look, as I said, we're well aware of which way this is going. That's why we've put in the substance legislation. That's why in 2016, almost 3 years ago, we were absolutely firmly committed to tackling base erosion profit shifting. That's why every time the global agenda has shifted, the Isle of Man has absolutely gone with it and committed itself at a very early stage to meeting the new standards that have come in. And we're going to continue to do that. And
how can one country within the EU, who are doing their own investigations, suddenly develop their own blacklist?
Well, a country's entitled to take its own steps. What they've effectively done is applied a withholding tax at an early stage on money or profits or dividends or royalties that are coming to the Isle of Man and other offshore centres, and they're perfectly entitled to do that. And the businesses that are moving that money will have to explain to the authorities, you know, the legitimacy, if you like, of those funds and why they should end up being transferred to a low tax environment. And that's absolutely fine with me because at the end of the day, we recognise that this agenda was being followed. We've committed to our own substance legislation. We want businesses on the Isle of Man to be here, to have staff here, to be really generating the profits, if you like, from the island. And this business of sort of benefiting, if you like, from this global shift of money is not really in our interests any longer, given the international agenda. So it's fine. Let the Dutch crack on and try and fight their own battle. But let's also bear in mind, really, this is about them trying to say to the rest of the world, we're not a tax haven. And there's clear evidence, obviously, it's built up over a number of years, how the Dutch tax system has been actively used by international corporations in this way.
The initial response from Isle of Man government seemed to be surprised, though. Don't we have people out there, advisors, PR people? Surely it wasn't a surprise.
Well, bear in mind the timing of this was literally just before Christmas.
But the build-up was probably coming before then,
I mean, most
wasn't it?
of us were aware, really, of the agenda that was being followed. And I think the Dutch have, in fact, trailed this for some time, that they were going to take some sort of action. The fact it came out a couple of days before Christmas really didn't give a lot of time for reaction. But also, I think if you're in the middle of this and realise that these actions are taking place, it's not something necessarily that requires an urgent and immediate response. I think what we've been able to do in the last few days and over the Christmas period was just try and digest some of the detail behind this, understanding what this actually was in reality, because you've got to dig behind the big headlines and see reality. And the reality of it is that they're simply requiring withholding taxes to be applied in certain circumstances, and requiring companies to justify why this money is being shifted to low tax jurisdictions.
But isn't there a reputational harm for the island to be included on a quote blacklist?
Well, I think probably the blacklist bit is a bit of let's say, sort of unnecessary PR, because ultimately what this is just a list of low tax or no tax jurisdictions, and that's how they've chosen to present it. But as I said, I mean, I think they've done this for their own purposes rather than to attack the Isle of Man. And we've still got to drill down into some of the detail. For example, they've arbitrarily seemed to have applied a sort of 9% tax level for countries to whom this money is being, to countries below 9% with corporate tax levels are affected. And we need to understand why that is, and we also need to understand why there may be some discrepancies in that list of countries that they've drawn out. But let's remember very, very clearly that the Dutch very much have been top of the pops when it comes to facilitating and allowing a corporate shifting of international profits.